Good morning, everyone. I have a couple short readings from The Anatomy of Healing Prayer by Ernest Holmes. And these came from some talks he did. And he likes to quote other writers and speakers. And so some of that comes out in this reading, but I thought they were both really good. So if you just allow yourself this time to relax and take a couple of deep healing breaths. At the center of everything, Whitman said, nestles the seed of perfection. The truth we have to demonstrate is that perfection does nestle at the center of everything. And as Browning said, it is loosening this imprisoned splendor that you must do. And Ernest Holmes said, I always liked Aurobindo's thought. He says that for the delight of God, I have never anywhere heard a more beautiful expression of the mystical meaning of creation. He said it exists for the delight of God. And we are for the delight of God.
I'm held in love, I'm held in peace. God is holding me. With every breath, with every step, God is holding me. I'm held in love, I'm held in peace. God is holding me. With every breath, with every step, God is holding me.
And I breathe in to the knowledge that we are all being held in the hands, in the light of Spirit. I know that as we come together this morning, that Reverend Angelica has just the right words that we need to hear. That coming together as a community, whether it be in person or on Zoom, it brings us into a common thought pattern that is so important to the creativity, to the life, to the love, to the light of living. And I'm so privileged to be here today. And I know that as this part of our service unfolds, that it will be joyful and light-filled. And so I am pleased to say, thank you all for being here. So it is.
God is holding me. God is holding me. God is holding me. God is holding me.
Thank you, Jackson and Michelle. So this morning our title is Dig Deep. And you know, we've been on this journey this month of going further together. And this idea of digging deep is a good one for our journey. So we'll start out by using some phrases from our Declaration of Principles. One is, we believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in all people, and that all people are incarnations of the one Spirit. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. These are two really deep ideas. I know that over the past 5 years or so, it's been hard to believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in all people. And it's hard to believe that we're moving into a place that is the complete emancipation from discord of every nature. And yet, if we hold this in our consciousness and we do the work that we're here to do, I know that we are going to experience it. And so how do we do that? First of all, we have to become aware of the spiritual beings that we truly are. I think we forget that a lot. That the truth of this is we're not a human trying to have a spiritual experience. We're a spiritual being working on being a human, or allowing ourselves to express as humans. And so for me, this idea of becoming aware of who the truth of us is, what the truth of us is, that each of us has to put our spirituality first. So I know that I've been doing this ministry stuff for 35 years, and before that I was in classes and all of that. And there have been times throughout this period that I have let go of my spiritual practices. Right now, my spiritual practice is to get a cup of coffee and feed the cats. That's the first thing. But then I sit down and I have a particular chair that I call my prayer chair, and I read the daily thing from my own book, and so it is, and from 365 Science of Mind, and the Science of Mind magazine. And then I go into meditation. And that meditation then leads me to spiritual mind treatment, in which I work on not only for myself and our planet, but for people that are on my list. So what I've noticed is that the days that I do not do my spiritual practice, or if I let it go for a while, then I become more disjointed in my life. I become confused, or things start not working. It's really interesting. If I balance myself or establish myself in the spiritual realm every morning, then the rest of the day seems to go well. So not only do we have to have a disciplined spiritual practice, but we also have to have a commitment to our personal growth and a deepening in our consciousness. So that commitment to personal growth comes in many different forms. Right now, I'm on a healthy eating kick, and sometimes I've been on exercise kicks, and sometimes my personal growth has included taking classes that aren't necessarily religious science, but they're in alignment with our teaching. And deepening consciousness, I think, is the place where we really have to dig deep. We have to get beyond this area of the collective consciousness and go to the very center of our being. If you've been in a foundational class with me, you've probably seen a map that I put up on, that I'll draw on the whiteboard or on the, wherever I draw it. But it's, I draw this big circle, and then I put little heads all the way around the circle that are like U's. So they're attached to this big circle, and I think this is a symbol of the mind of God. And then right inside that circle, I draw a lot of scribbly lines, and I call that the collective consciousness. And that's a place where we feel we have no personal power. It's a place where we fall into fear a lot. It's a place where we listen to that out there instead of what's truly our truth, which is in us. So then the third area I draw, I have called the psychic area. So the first one is collective consciousness. The next area is a clear area. I call it the psychic area. And it's the place where many people come to these teachings through some sort of practice that could be considered psychic. It's a place where we're not in as much fear as we were in the collective, and where we are beginning to realize that there's a power within us that is stronger than anything outside of us. And then the very center, I draw a circle and I put a big G in it because that's the God center. And that's that digging deep. That's where we want to get to. That's where we absolutely know and know that there is nothing but God here. And that all the powers that we've attributed to God, we already have. We just don't know it yet. And that in that circle, there is no fear, and there is a great deal of personal power. So sometimes I have to look at myself. This also brings me back to a story that I've told on Sundays before and in classes about watching Johnny Carson one night and finding he had a plate spinner there, and the guy, was spinning plates on rods and, having them in his hands, had one in his mouth, spin, 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 not dropping any of them, doing a really neat little show. And then the show's over and Johnny takes him up on the stage Johnny says, goes over to the table where all his equipment is and asks him how he does that. And the guy has Johnny try. And of course, Johnny's trying to spin one plate on a rod and it falls off almost immediately a couple of times. And then they go up on stage and they sit and talk, and Johnny's asking him, how do you do this? And he says, I do not focus on the wobble. And when I heard that he said, I focus on the center of the plate, not on the wobble. And when I heard that, I thought, oh my God, that is what we're supposed to be doing in life. All of this out there, the political stuff, everything, it's all part of the wobble. And when we allow ourselves to attach to it, then we're forgetting who we are. If we're staying centered, all of that doesn't affect us as much as it does if we're focusing on it. And we're not dropping the plate. So I love this Rumi quote. He says, as you live deeper in the heart, the mirror gets clearer and cleaner. Again, all of that out there is a reflection of what's in our own consciousness. So as we live deeper in the heart, as we dig deeper, that mirror will begin to get clearer and cleaner. I know for myself, I'm a lot less afraid than I was before I got into this teaching. I do end up getting trapped sometimes by the wobble because I'm focusing on it too much, but then I'll remember and go, wait a minute, I don't have to live like this. I don't have to experience this. And I'll move back into the center. So a question for all of us is, how do we know when we're on the path of higher consciousness? This too is about digging deeper. So we achieve this by focusing on and being grateful for all that empowers ourselves and others. We forgive all that weakens our vision of a better world. We join with others in an ever-expanding community of like-minded individuals committed to raising their own consciousness and the consciousness of all. I think that that's one of the things that draws us to a Center for Spiritual Living, is because we're with a community of like-minded individuals who want to raise their consciousness and thereby raise the consciousness of everybody. But the important part that I wrote in this statement is we forgive. We forgive all that weakens our vision of a better world. We forgive it in our personal circle of influence. We forgive it on the outer circle of influence. And forgiveness to me is such an important key to digging deeper. I know that as I've been doing some of the writing classes that I do Lorna's, and I do a friend of mine's from Hawaii who's an award-winning poet, and I've been working on a memoir, trying to remember things from my childhood that I couldn't remember before, and finding things that, remembering, as Dr. Holmes says, that the memory is always active. I've been finding things that that are still running in my subjective mind that need to be released. And so how do you release things? How do you release all that pain that you might have had as a child, or as an employee somewhere, or perhaps in a past relationship or past relationships? How do you do that? You forgive it. And forgiveness is not about making them any different. Forgiveness is about allowing ourselves to realize that all of it is, like Emma Curtis Hopkins says, this too is God, this too is good, this too is for me. When I look back on my childhood, I realize that I'm a really strong person because of what I experienced as a child. And in fact, Friday, my mother, the Harris mother, that did all the abuse, etc., she would have been 101 years old. And so my Harris siblings and I had a Zoom call last night. And I started it off by asking them, what did Mother give you that you still appreciate in your life? Because that was what helped me work on forgiving her, was recognizing all the things that I got from her that I'm still using. Like, my mother loved beauty. She loved looking beautiful. She loved creating a beautiful atmosphere around her. She loved beautiful art. She loved beauty. Beauty in music, beauty in writing, beauty in everything. And so I have that love of beauty and have developed it and encouraged it in myself even more as time goes on. And the other thing that I got from her was learning how to read. I learned how to read before kindergarten because my mother valued reading. And I'll tell you that reading was where I escaped as a child, and even as an adult I've used it as an escape, but I've also learned so much from reading, whether it's religious science or it's about the universe or periods of history or whatever. So in my forgiveness work, I then filled that place that I was holding on to, the pain, with something good. And so that's one of the ways that we move forward on the path of higher consciousness. I love this statement. I like the picture, actually. A life lived without forgiveness is a life lived in the past. And boy, as I've been doing this memoir writing, I've realized this is the truth. There are parts of me that are still stuck in the past. And if there's something in you that you're still holding against anyone or still feeling pain from because of whatever, let yourself move into the present moment through forgiveness. A life lived without forgiveness is a life lived in the past. And you know, the past is a lot of baggage to drag into whatever we're creating now. And we are creating something new. We're creating something new for ourselves personally. We're creating something new as a collective. So that other phrase, that second phrase that I read in the principles was that complete emancipation of all discord. So how do we work towards that? So my feeling is that we have to be willing to be open to new ways of seeing things. We have to be open to bring about change and positive change. We open ourselves to greater creativity and abilities in working with others to improve the lives of all. We cultivate new ways of listening to the other and to that quiet voice within us. And we bring this expanded consciousness to our thoughts, our discussions, and actions in all areas of our life, in political, corporate, academic, and social, and I forgot to write financial in here. We support organizations and structures that evidence this emerging global consciousness with our time, talent, and finances. You know, I do these little tiny bits of investing here and there, and I'm starting to look at more and more at organizations that are doing something for the planet, and maybe perhaps in the way that they create their products. You know, they use the materials that are good for our planet. You know, when I first got into investing, in my 20s, my dad turned me on to Coors, the beer. And boy, I did really well with that for a while. But you know, that I finally sold it because it doesn't really affect any sort of change to the environment or to this new world that I want to live in and that I want our children and our children's children to live in. So we invest not only with our money, but we invest with our thoughts and our emotions. And in the way that we're investing is how we expand our consciousness. So to work towards complete emancipation of all from discord of every nature, we need to first be emancipated from the discord within ourselves. Here's something really simple. I walk down to the end of the street to get my mail 6 days a week. And for 6 days recently, I've been walking. There's a school right next door to me. Now, it's also very windy here. So candy papers and soda cans and things like that end up in my yard as well as along the street. Well, I pick them up in my yard quite often. But on my walk down to the post where the boxes are, the mailboxes are, I ignore it. I've noticed that I ignore it. And so the third day, I think it was, that I walked by this soda can, I finally picked it up on my way back to the house. And, part of me was thinking that I shouldn't have to do this. And yet, if I want my environment to be clean, if I want my environment to be to support us in even a better way, and if I have the love of Mother Earth that I say that I have, then what the hell is stopping me from picking up somebody else's trash? Nothing but ego, right? Nothing like, well, I shouldn't have to do it. I mean, I watched myself go through these things, and finally I thought, okay, so maybe I need to bring a bag with me. I mean, when I go walking dogs that I walk, I take bags with me. What's wrong with taking another bag to pick up the trash that I might see along the way? So I have to be willing to change the way I was acting in order to affect change in my world, in order to move towards that complete emancipation from all discord of every nature. Going back to the idea of forgiveness, which I think is so important in our digging deep and moving forward as clear, clean human beings into the future. I love this sentence that Oprah Winfrey had. She said, true forgiveness is when you can say thank you for that experience. So the other day when I was journaling, I realized I was grateful for that experience of recognizing in my thinking where I was saying, no, that's not mine to do. And I allowed myself to forgive myself for being sort of arrogant. Thank you for that experience. I thanked my mother for the experience I had as a child. I'm thanking the political arena right now for showing us how skewed it can be and making me think, well, what do I really want? Instead of just leaving it for them to take care of. Thank you for that experience. Now here's a fun little thing, since next Sunday is Halloween, and I'm not sure that Dennis Merritt Jones will talk about that, but I love this little piece I found. I think I found it on Facebook a couple years ago. Things I want to stop doing. Fearing the unknown. Isn't that a powerful thing? Fearing the unknown. Do you know the truth is every single moment of our lives, the next moment is the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, much less 5 years from now. And so why be afraid of it? Why not stand on the precipice every single day and say, oh, what joy, what color, what music, what life do I get to experience today? And I like the little witch's house, forgetting my own power. That's where when we find ourselves getting sad or depressed or angry or resentful, we've forgotten. We've forgotten that there is that within us. There's only one life. That life is God's life. And this is the life that God is living right now. And in that life is all the power of the universe. I want to stop poisoning my own thoughts. This little cauldron of negativity. And it's so easy, isn't it, to get wrapped up in that idea of negativity? All I need to do is turn on the news and I'm immediately right there in that cauldron of negativity along with everybody else. And that's poisoning my own thoughts. So I don't turn on the news now, except for a couple people that I really like. And there's the little the coffin that says, killing my own vibe. Do you know, each one of us is so amazing, so special, and yet we forget that. We don't even know that we are. As a child, you know, we look at little children and we can see that special vibe, if you want to call it that, within them. We can see their spirit. And we encourage that. And yet, as time goes on, that child, goes through teenage times, which is a place where we think everybody else's vibe is so much better than our own, and so we try to be somebody else. We go through relationships where we try to be somebody that we think that person wants us to be. Sooner or later, and maybe it's when we get older, that we realize, wait, I want to be me. And so I I want to stop killing my own vibe. I also like the spider web, getting tangled up with worry. How often do we do that? Getting tangled up and worrying about something. A lot of times we're worrying about something that isn't even worth worrying about. Or it's not true. The incident that comes into my mind that's the best teaching story, I know I've told this one before. I need some new stories, God. Anyway, but good ones. I don't want them through pain. Driving home one time from a trip and seeing, I was living in Southern California, seeing the mountains on fire and knowing that on the other side of those mountains was where I lived, in the mountains, in the hills, and worrying the whole time about my cats, about my plants, about my house, about my computer, about getting there and having nothing or whatever. I built up this story that by the time I was driving up the hill to get to my home and realizing that the mountains were on fire, now it looked like they were on the other side, that it wasn't anywhere close to where I lived, I realized I had been clutching the steering wheel so hard that my hands hurt, and that my jaws hurt, and that period of worry that I had had was totally unnecessary. And so it makes me think about the times when I start worrying now. How necessary is that worrying? And I like this one down here with the vampire teeth, letting others drain my energy. How many times have we done something? Perhaps we've created something that's really nice or whatever. And maybe we've posted on Facebook, maybe we've done, shared it with other people in some way. There always seems to be that one person that gives us the negative aspects of it. And what do? What did I do so many times? I let that one person drain my energy. I might have been feeling really good about what I had created, but one person said something negative about it, and I let go of all the people that had said something good, and I let my energy drain out because of that one person. What I know now is I'm not responsible for what other people think. I have to pay attention to what I think, to what I know, and allow my energy to keep building up all the time. The second to the last one is fretting about the future. Boy, right now I know so many people that are fretting about the future, about, working, about how long more they're going to be living, about their children. I mean, we tend to do this a lot, fret about the future. And yet I can remember back in my hippie days, the most popular book there was Ram Dass's Be Here Now. And over again, I have to remind myself, this moment right now is the only moment there is. This moment is a moment that is given to me to make the most out of. And I can't make the most out of it fretting about what the next moment is going to be like. So I want to stop doing that. And then the last one, feigning a smile. How many times has somebody said, well, how are you? And you go, oh, fine. And maybe you're not. And maybe they're not the person that you want to share with why you're not. And in a way, I think that we tend to hide those times that we're not feeling really good, that we're not feeling up and positive like we think we should be. And maybe it's time to stop hiding. Stop feigning a smile. All of these things are going to help us dig deeper so that we can release the splendor that we really are. Who we are is spirit in form, and spirit is absolutely amazing. Once we really get to that place, even if it's for a second, and remember the truth of our being, we feel flooded with love, flooded with light, a sense of happiness. And so let's allow ourselves this week to do a little deep digging so we can get rid of all the junk and be these beautiful spiritual beings having a human experience that we are. There is a part in the Bible, it's in Luke 6:48, where Jesus says, "He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on rock." And this is what I'm asking you to do, is to build your foundation on rock. And to me, the rock is God as our foundation. He goes on to say some other things. I love this picture that I found on Google Images. When God is your foundation, you are well built. So let's all dig deep and move into that arena of being well built. So join me in saying this affirmation together. I know spirit is within each of us. It is our responsibility then to open our hearts and minds to a greater extent than ever before, so we can dig deeply into the truth of all being. The greater the openness, the greater the wisdom and love that pours forth. This is the center of all healing, and so it is. And so let's go into treatment. How grateful I am to have a community, a spiritual community to do this work with. How grateful I am to know that every little bit of work we do is powerful. It's valuable. It's so worthwhile. So I know that as we dig deep, what we find is the truth of our being. And that truth is there is only one life. That life is God's life, and that life is the life we are living right now. So I declare for each of us, using the first person, that I am ready and willing to experience myself as a God being. I am ready and willing to let go of all that I've been dragging with me into this present moment and stand free and clear, ready to experience all that today has to offer, and then tomorrow, all that tomorrow has to offer, and then tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and to be free and clear and know that who I am is divine. The energy that floods my body is divine energy, and it moves through me continually, healing absolutely everything that I might have thought into error. It moves through my life, through my finances, through my creativity, through my relationship, cleaning and clearing absolutely everything, so that we realize to a greater degree than we ever have before that we are fully supported in every way, that we are loved in every way, that the universe loves what it's created as us. And so I celebrate our willingness to do the deep digging whenever anything comes up. We allow ourselves to uncover our true self. And this is good, very good. So I give thanks for these things, knowing that they are so, knowing that each one of us receives something from this morning's experience that blesses us and nurtures us and supports us on this journey called life. This is God's life. It is a good life. And so it is. So right now I get to share with you a piece of music that is an original piece by Jeff Smoller. Let me just make sure I get rid of this one. Okay. And he calls it Loved. Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you so much.